Welcome to the next episode of the Tech and Toast podcast. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Ed Christmas. We'll talk about that in a minute. MD of Bums on Seats. Ed, how are you?
I'm very well. Thanks so much for having me.
Welcome to Brewdog.
Yes.
You've been here before. You live here, right?
I live here. I spend at least 2 to 3 days a week here.
You're basically like one of those homeless people, but you live in Brewdog.
Yeah. I mean...
Officeless people.
Yeah, pretty much.
Do you have an office though, don't you guys?
No, we don't actually. We used to. We've moved around. We moved around a lot in terms of office space. Coming out of COVID, I think we had quite a large team. Social,
office.
But also like that social bubble.
Yeah.
It was it made sense. But I think what happened over time is more and more often people wanted us in venues. So that our clients wanted us in their offices or their venues, and then it just got to a point where actually there was only 1 or 2 people in an office that was costing us an arm and a leg.
Oh, I can tell you a story about an office, but I won't do it now. But yeah, I hear you entirely, and it's really weird. Office culture, I've only ever experienced it once properly, I suppose, when I was at Prime Minister, because I was like an important person there. So I had to go and sit with all the other important people every day, and I was bored out of my head, honestly. Yeah. And it's just, I found it because I like to talk, right? Hence why I found myself onto a podcast. Yeah. And yeah, it's difficult when other people are trying to actually do proper work.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for it around collaboration and a bit of competitiveness when it comes to sales, of course, and that's always really great. But there is sometimes there's instances where actually, you know what, being able to be remote working, being in venue, being alongside operators can be far more valuable.
Yeah, I bet. So before we get into all that, tell me a little bit about you, Ed, because I don't know you well enough yet. We just talked about your surname, which we just have to get out of the way because it will come up. It's Christmas.
Yeah.
So I just did it already.
Yeah.
It's Christmas.
It's Christmas. I think come into the Christmas period.
I was just saying how much it must annoy me, and then I bring it up on a podcast.
Oh no, honestly, I get it so often. Obviously, with let's set the record straight. It's not a stage name. It was something that I was born with. It just happens, right?
It's not a deliberate choice.
It's not deliberate. I mean, it does wonders in terms of if it's a name you don't forget very, very quickly.
That is true, actually. Great for networking.
Exactly. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm surprised being at Bums on Seats, we haven't actually done much of the Christmas marketing aspect of it.
If you work for me or with me, I would be marketing your name 100%.
I know, top tips from Mr. Christmas. They really got a title for this.
And at school, I was always called Fletcher by my teachers because it was a bit, I don't know if it was posh or they were just horrible. They never used my first name. But I can't imagine if doing it to you. Christmas! And I was like, yeah, well, that's great. We all like Christmas until you did that. Anyway, we're moving on from it. It's done. You've had it all your life. You don't want it anymore. What did you do before Bums on Seats? What? Tell us about your journey.
Yeah, sure. So I started working in hospitality pretty much since I was legally, and I'm going to say that, legally allowed to.
Depends which city you live in.
Yeah. Or which town you lived in, actually. A small town.
12-year-old off to work.
Yeah, you said it. But yeah, so I started when I was legally allowed to, sort of worked my way up to sort of supervisor, AGM, etc. And then from there, moved to Manchester, where I was working a few jobs, everything from sort of social media consultancy to, again, that sort of front of house aspect of it, more ops heavy.
Yeah.
And then coming out of university, I ended up working to my only stint outside of hospitality, where I worked in recruitment.
You went to the evil recruitment.
I did, and I tell you what, I learned a thing or two there. Did it for a year.
Was it recruitment for hospitality or totally out?
Totally out. So it was for social workers.
Oh God!
So working with a lot of London boroughs. Yeah, I mean, we had the desk that I was starting. It was from scratch. There was
I love the way people call it the desk.
Yeah.
Because we have our recruitment bit now with Tim, and Tim says, "Oh, my desk is getting busy." I'm like, "What do you mean?"
Yeah, it's a proper thing in recruitment.
That's a statement.
But yeah, started that from scratch, created a team, and then after a year, at the time I thought, you know what, I can do this. I like doing it, but then I thought, actually, I'm from Brighton originally, so it was a little bit too far from sort of friends, family, home, that sort of vibe. So. And I got the opportunity to work with Design My Night. So I moved over to Design My Night as one of their first account managers, sort of just as the acquisition was going through with the Access Group. And then from there, that account management team went from 3 to all the way up to sort of 9, 10. And then I was helping running that team. And then was there for a couple of years where I met Amber. So Amber Saini is the CEO and founder of Bums on Seats. So she was working as a consultant for what was the Delta Group at the time.
Okay. I wonder where the connection was. Okay.
Yeah. So and then I was the account manager for Delta Group at the time. Started working very closely with Amber. We saw a lot of common ground, and then after a couple of years at Design by Night, Amber and I met for I met for a coffee. I think it was mid-March 2020. Got really excited about working together, and then
I've heard this story so many times today. And then guess what?
Was going through the processes, and then obviously COVID hit, things changed. Stayed at Design by Night. I loved working at Design by Night. I think it was a really great business to work for, and the Access Group. And then, but working with venues that were going through a really rough time, making sure that they were looked after. And granted, I know there's some, there were some things that, I was wanting to do as much as I possibly could, and really getting kind of boots on the ground was very hard to do. So moving to Bums on Seats, I was able to do a lot of that from a consultative standpoint. So I ended up moving over in August 2020, where really got stuck in, and I started that role really broadly, looking after all the clients overall, really making sure that they were seeing results from the consultancy gigs we were doing at the time. And then as time transpired, where there was a gap at Bums on Seats at the time was around more of that systems bit, that tech partnerships, that whole arm of it, and kind of worked my way through that bit, working with different tech suppliers from a consultancy basis, really looking at what from a client perspective, how they can use their relative booking platform, for example, how they can use that more efficiently, but then also working with other suppliers about what's missing. Worked with that for a while, and then Amber went on maternity leave, and then as a result, I moved up to the sort of managing director role.
I know this story so well because I think I watched it through LinkedIn. It was through the pandemic, right?
That was about 2 years ago. So to coming out of the pandemic, I think that whole transition happened, and moving to that managing director role, and off the back of that was got put onto the 30 under 30 RMI, things like that. So it was all shout out.
Press my button for that. Look, you get one of these for that. There you go, well done.
Nice, thanks. Thanks so much. Then moved to that, and then worked really closely with the team at Bums on Seats, and working with so many different suppliers. Worked really closely with Sam Brown and the team at Airship at the time. And Dan,
Sam Brown?
I know. How many times does he get name dropped in this podcast? A few. But working really closely with them and various different partners from Dan Hawkey at Feedback, etc., and really starting to build on our partnerships, and really working more collaboratively, and really worked managing the business for a while, for the most of last year, and then sort of October time, Amber and I ended up actually going into business together. So now we're business partners. So we. So they've, there's some. So I managed to get some steak out of it, I suppose. And then obviously since then we've just been growing from strength to strength, and I still hold that managing director role with Amber still working as that CEO. So it's working really well.
It's cool, and the problem you're solving for, let's say, do you have a particular customer profile you're selling to, or is it anybody in hospitality?
I think is
there a more regular customer, I suppose?
Yeah, I think we're at the moment we're seeing a lot of successes in those large pub groups.
Right.
There are some, we've worked really closely with everything from your several hundred pubs to your more sort of everything between sort of 20 and 50. But we're seeing lots of successes with them. I think they're a really great one. I work really closely with competitive socialising venues as well. I'm also part of Game Changers organisation.
Oh yes, I know that. That's Jade.
Yes,
I know Jade. Yeah. Crazy Jade.
Jade is awesome. So I've been working
that was
really.
A nice way of saying.
Working really closely with a lot of competitive socialising venues, and really get under the bonnet of a lot of them. And I think that's it's really allowed me to kind of be much closer with the competitive socialising, but also working with those pubs. But we still obviously work with your restaurants. I literally just did a piece of work with a hotel group, just wrapped up, I think, last week. So we do work with lots of different ones, but probably the more common ones tend to be your more mid to large pub groups. And
what does it look like? So if I come to you tomorrow and I've got issues with my bums on my seats, as in I need more sales, basically, right? Mm-hmm. How does it work? Is it a consultative process? How does that work then, or do you have a bit of kit that you put in?
Yeah, so we do several different things, and I think what we tend with that sort of scenario, what we tend to do is we we call them our audits and our health checks. So audits being the full shebang, and then the health checks being a slightly sort of more budget-friendly, budget-friendly version. And what we do is we look at everything from, and we take a really sort of holistic approach across, operations, marketing, and sales, and systems. And so we will look at more of a systems bit. That's the whole data-driven aspect of it. We pick apart that whole bookings data, any CRM activity if we can get our hands on, look at that, see what the status quo is, get under the bonnet, and then within that, then we build on that. We're saying, okay, well, let's look at the process, the end to end, so the whole customer journey from the minute someone wants to go to your venue or wants to go to a bar in Shoreditch, for example, what's that whole process? So getting all the way through to that post follow-up feedback. We look at that entire thing. How are inquiries being handled? What's that process? All the way through to then essentially the sales arsenal, the sales toolkit. So
I like that, the sales arsenal.
Yeah, and then it's everything from menus, brochures, packages, looking at your local partnerships, B2B, B2C, loyalty, anything like that, anything that you're using that you can go out and sell, we will help look at, and also to be able to then benchmark against the other audits we've done versus on very different sectors, your bars, your restaurants, your pubs, etc. And then we also touch on a bit of marketing as well, where that looks at everything. We kind of tie it all in together from everything from SEO to sort of what are your segmentations going on, etc. We'll be able to kind of pull that all together, and that there's a reason why we work in that approach, and I think it's really important, and it's one of the things my team hear all the time, and I harp on about it all the time, is this whole idea of a leaking bucket. Yeah. You can have the shit hot marketeer, or you can have the best operator in the world working at your venue, but if you don't have everything that sort of end-to-end journey right, from who's handling your sales, what's going on with your system, what's going on with your messaging, everything like that, it's all your efforts can be wasted, and it's a leaking bucket. If you don't have your foundation set, then it can all kind of go, it can fall by the wayside. So it's really important to get that sales funnel sorted and streamlined and as efficient as possible. There was a research firm by IDC that shows about 30% of revenue is lost based on business inefficiencies, and that's not just bespoke to hospitality, 100%. But there's probably a lot to be said.
And is that quite when you go in? What kind of because we were discussing a mutual friend, Miss Sill. Another shout out to Data Hawks. Just get it out of the way. This is sponsored by Data Hawks.
Good old thing.
Just because she comes across the data issue in terms of the management of data and understanding what you do with it. Are you guys the same in that fact that actually you're seeing this similar? Is it kind of the same use case generally when you meet a brand and you're talking to them, you're going to solve these problems, but is it generally the same problem you come across? Is it that, and inefficiency sounds like you're being rude sometimes, doesn't it? It sounds like you're saying they're not very good at operations, but it's not about that.
No.
We've all been in ops. Operations is pretty inefficient generally, unless you can fix it, but that's where it requires a third party sometimes.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of things that I think, for the inefficiency side is more about, sometimes there's not often, sometimes the skill set there, there's, I think that's something that we often do off the back of our audits, is we look at the training element of it, and we're doing a lot of work with a lot of places from an operations standpoint about that in-visit experience, but also that pre-sale and post-sale experience as well. We do a lot of training on that to kind of make sure that is running as efficient, get people thinking outside the box and as efficient as possible.
Did you just say thinking outside the box? My podcast.
Plug. It's like I did my research before I came here. No, but I think with Fixel and Data Hawks, what we look at different things. Yeah. So they look more at sort of that more the data set, that customer profiling. We don't do that as much. We do more about, right, okay, you've had, for ease of maths, you've had 100 inquiries land into your platform. What, how quickly are you converting them? How many are you converting? And what is your process? How can you shorten that process? Because you can bet if you're booking a birthday party corporate thing, you're not inquiring to one place only.
No, you're multiple, right?
Exactly. So there is elements of being efficient, but also being quick on your responses, making sure that you are delivering on the customer's emotional needs, and that's a lot of what our training do. It's not, it's what I'm seeing a lot of is a lot of people doing things for what's easier for them rather than what's necessarily what the customer wants and what the customer needs are.
I presume it's down to habit, right? Or down to because you've gone from one brand to another brand, you took whatever you did there, you're doing here, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's always the right thing to do. And I think we had Champa from Access on the podcast of the week, and she was saying the fact that actually learned experiences from old roles isn't always the greatest thing to bring with you because it narrows your mind a little bit.
I agree, and I think there absolutely some really great learnings to take from previous role, and some of the stuff that's going on here at your previous role is gonna, you can be able to transfer across, and it really works. But sometimes you've got to make sure that you're doing what's right for the business and the customer, and that's thinking about the customer always is what can always end up driving sales.
And we're heading up to, I will be really honest here, what month are we in? We're in October, and we're heading up to Christmas, and then obviously there's I find the two seasons really hard to work through. As an operator, December and January, let's call it Christmas and early New Year, are two very different animals to tackle, right?
Yeah.
And I know we want to talk about both because we know, know what this is. I'm kind of playing it coolly because I don't know when I'm putting it out. But it's really interesting to understand how you tackle those two different peaks and troughs and still get some decent results out of it. Can you help us, Mr. Christmas?
Of course.
I did it again.
Of course. No, all good. Top tips from Mr. Christmas at Christmas time. It's absolutely fine. You're welcome to use that. You're welcome to use that for this podcast if you need it. That
will be the trailer, my friend, with some bells.
I think there's so many different approaches to it, and I think and it's all about being strategic, right? Yeah. And I know gone are the days of sort of knocking on doors, hanging out leaflets, that sort of thing. Long gone are those days. There needs to be more strategic approaches, and I think trying to get things like Christmas out as soon as you possibly can, making sure you're capitalizing on the data you've got. Data's gold. It's 6 to 10 times cheaper and easier to market and sell to existing customers than it is to find new ones.
100%.
And I find, and so many different clients I work with really think more salespeople mean more money. Yeah. That's not always the case. It's about utilizing what you have and how do you grow it. And I know doing everything from a segmentation perspective and obviously marketing to those people is absolutely key when it comes to the new year. That's something that is going to be really important. But I think, that is quite a blanket approach that you can apply to most venues in the industry. I think understanding what your message is, not just offering discount. I'm seeing that creep back in, that discount culture.
Is that not a desperation, but is it a desperation thing? Is it because people are kind of running out of avenues to go down, or they feel like they're running out of avenues to go down and they think it's a quick way to market?
I think people look at their lead times, for example, or I see so often that people look on a Monday for their bookings on a Saturday and they're thinking, shit, I need to fill my venue. How do I do a discount? I see it all the time, and it kind of went away for a bit coming out of the pandemic. And it's kind of creeping back in with some of the groups that we're working with at the moment. And I think it's not about discount, it's about added value. I think being able to, give that added value to a customer in your messaging is way more. It doesn't devalue your brand and things like that. And I think that's going into January what people need to focus on, utilizing what you've got next and utilizing your Christmas bookers. Can you invite those big hitters back in just for bring a couple of friends I'll tell you back in January, that tie that all in, give it a whole experience, because it's all about creating that experience and really utilizing it in venue and post visit as well. It's going to be so key for how you drive sales in the new year.
And have you seen Christmas change, I suppose, in terms of what businesses look like? Because some people say it's getting shorter, some people say it's actually getting down to 1 week in some cases where venues are seeing it. And my last few years in ops, I actually noticed it was shrinking. I think because you can online shop right now, so you don't need to go to the shops as much. So there's less people on the high street. Is that what you're seeing in terms of what you're dealing with as well?
I think it really varies based on the venue that you're in. Your pubs, restaurants, perhaps might be shrinking, but your competitive socializing can really drag it out. For us, for example, we're gonna. Last year we celebrated our Christmas in January, but then also this year we're doing it in November. So I think for different styles of businesses, I think both the people that you're targeting, but also the actual venue itself, I think it could be longer. I think it's about being.
I suppose it's your dynamic choice, right? Potentially, if you're strategic about it, as you say, and if you actually say, like, let's elongate Christmas as much, let's sweat this thing as much as we can, because I do think that it's the biggest opportunity of the year, obviously, to kind of make it work for you. But it's very interesting. And then outside of the the season's there. I'm not sticking to my questions here. Poor Red, this is what I do,
no.
mate. You're fine. You're more than
fine.
confident. But you've got all the different, like the different days of the year, like Mother's Day, Father's Day, all that kind of stuff. Is that, are they kind of, this is just purely an in question for me, but are they dying, or are they still very much a big boost to sales? Is it something that you can hang your hat on?
Yeah, I think if you're doing it right, it is absolutely an absolute slam dunk. I think for occasion-led...
That's what I was trying to say. Sorry,
yeah, no, but I think occasion-led bookings and are really great drivers. And I see so often, you go online and you try and book, and it's basically drink, eat, or lunch, dinner, or whatever, or private hire, or group bookings. And I always say to my clients, being like, if you've got a group bookings journey, are you capturing why they're there? Because everything from a corporate through to a wedding through to a birthday, there are so many different angles. Every corporate, someone that lead booker will have a birthday, or that person will have that opportunity. So it's about making sure that you're hitting all the right touch points. And I think making sure you've got offering, you've got sales plans, you've got a good understanding of what's good good offering at every opportunity, every touch point. I think that's how you can drive it. I think, the difference, I would say, with what it used to be like for things like Mother's Day and Father's Day and stuff.
Back in the day.
Back in the day. I say back in the day, pre-COVID, let's see,
Feels like back in the day.
Yeah, it feels like a different world. Funny. Yeah. I think it's to do with the lead times are just different, and group sizes are different. And I think it's about making sure you can, without kind of trying to cast the net really wide and offer something to everyone, it's knowing your market and making sure that you've got everything for every touch point. So making sure for Mother's Day, you've got your family get-togethers where you've got the grandparents there, you've got the aunties there, you've got the cousins there, all that stuff, making sure you can accommodate them, but also without losing your more small groups that you can turn really quickly.
It's fascinating. It's such more of a beast than you kind of imagine if you're not in ops and you're outside of it and you look at it. There's so much more to market to. I think because of the ability of tech, you can get to more people now. And I suppose understanding that is huge. Do you see much in terms of last minute bookings? Because Amble, our friends at Amble, living his best life in Dubai. Actually, I've got a podcast I need to put out about him. But there's a lot of last minute bookings. And then I think OpenTable were reporting recently about, or might be Seven Rooms. One of the guys was talking about the fact they're seeing a lot more of this last minute bookings. Is it something that are people just kind of like going out and rocking up?
I think we're seeing a lot of that as well, and I think we're seeing a lot of that across lots of different sectors. But I think my thing to almost combat that is I can imagine from an ops and a labour perspective, that's a flipping nightmare to try and from a rota perspective. How do you possibly do that? So it's about having a strategy that encompasses ops, sales, marketing, and systems. I say the Holy Trinity, but systems sits in the middle, in my opinion. But it's about having that whole kind of holy grail in order to be able to make sure that is still a thing. You're always going to want them. You're always going to want your ambles and whatever to help plug those time slots. But I think if you could, as much as possible, try and get that lead time up, that's an absolute.
Because you want guaranteed, right? Don't you? I think if anybody in any kind of business wants to know would love a magic wand to know what's going to happen. And you guys are kind of saying, well, work with us and we could almost make that happen, right? In terms of you can look forward and look what's going to happen.
Yeah, and and there's we really want to be able to do that, and it's about thinking in the right way rather than that slapdash approach that we said about the the discounts.
I think you were referring to my operations style, but you're probably right.
no, of course. I mean,
yes, you're right.
No, but I think there's so much there's so much that can be done, and there's so many strategic ways of looking at it. And I think, and we often help. We don't just do the audits and go hands up and go, oh, right, over to you guys. We can help guide you through that process, and we do that for various different businesses.
And who do you talk to then? Because I imagine that different venues, different people, some have a team of marketing people and whatever. What do you do when it's just like a GM?
I mean,
or an owner, I suppose.
Again, like even we speak with owners, regularly. But I think even from a GM standpoint, the one I wrapped up in the hotel group the other week was the GM was so invested in. Oh my God, there's this money on the table. That's what we show in a lot of our audits. We were showing something about, I think it was a couple $100,000 over the course of a year, where there was just money on the table that just wasn't answered, and so often not people hide.
So are you saying like literally inquiries or bookings that just have been left?
For whatever reason they weren't converted. And that we will go in deeper if we can find out why they were missed. Was it that they were too last minute? Was it because you were fully booked? Was it train strikes, God forbid? All that sort of stuff. We can dig into all of that if we can, and then really start to create a bigger picture of, okay, why are your sales not where they can?
Yeah.
You know, what is the size price? We worked with a competitive socializing group about 3 weeks ago, and what came out of that was £500,000 was left on the table because they weren't confirming various, and there's obviously reasons for that, but you know, for a competitive socializing group that was less than 10 sites, £500,000 is a lot of money. So being able to then talk to them about, right, okay, these are the reasons why, that's what they're now using as their strategy for next year.
That's huge. And again, I hate to bring her up again, it reminds me of Vic saying, when she talks about email campaigns, saying, look, this is what you could get, this is what you could have won, type of thing.
Exactly, and that's why we can work really well with someone like Data Hawks and Vic, because, you know, whilst we can understand from a bookings perspective where you guys are at, like they will be able to understand, right, okay, how do we get those people back in at the top of the funnel, and we make sure that whatever's coming through is getting converted and it hits that bottom line. So that's how we can work really well and really harmoniously together.
Vic and harmonious. Interesting concept.
Honestly, I love Vic.
It's amazing. And do you use much tech then? Obviously, you're involved in the booking systems and the booking platforms, but do you have anything internal, or is it more about the consultative approach that you guys?
We have our own we have our own kind of formulas that we have, and that we are able to extract the rawest forms of data across those booking platforms into our own kind of formulas that allow us to kind of help us compare apples with apples, regardless of booking systems. And what we find a lot of the time is people just there's no standardization of reporting when it comes to sales and pre-bookings. You know, people really only care about their top line or their bottom line.
That's super interesting. So yeah, I was going to ask about the reporting side of things. So you guys are giving them that benchmark, I suppose, or that, I suppose they've got sales, they've got like for like, they've got all that kind of stuff through their EPOS, but actually looking deeper into bookings and how they're performing and what's left on the table, you guys can provide that.
Yeah, cool. Exactly. And I think, and one of our big metrics, and we actually worked with City Pub Group on this before they sold to Young's, is looking at, okay, what is your percentage of pre-book versus your overall revenue, and how can you, without watering down sort of that walk-in spend, how can you increase that percentage without risking anything that's going on with walk-in? And you know, and we worked really closely, and we still do now, but with Clive Watson and you know, when we were able to really work with them and year on year show an increase of like for likes, you know, working from on a consultative, but also helping them, you know, we went up to, I think it was 16% for Christmas 2023 versus 2022. So we were working with them to get to that, and that obviously in turn helped Clive sell to Young's.
So basically, we sold City Group.
Pretty much. You said it, not me. Let it be known.
No, but it's true, right? And I actually, one thing I loved about ops, and I was obsessive, all my teams will tell you, I was obsessive with growth, right? I love the fact that you could be up on last year. Sounds really weird, but like that fact of being up on like for like was a real like, energizer for me. And Christmas especially, I was like, every year people say you can't do it again. I'm like, yeah, you can. Yeah, you can always find a way, right?
Absolutely.
Always find another seat. Always find another table. Find the bit of spend.
Exactly. We were up, you know, even with City, we were up. I think it was written it down somewhere over there, but you know, we were up. We were making it up. It's not recorded or anything. But yeah, we went up. You know, every year we've gone up. We started working with those guys, you know, back in 2022, and then working each year we've been able to bring it up. So yeah, it's you can always go bigger and better and things like that. So, but we also don't just work at like for likes, and you kind of touched on it there, but like everyone still is really hung up on this like for likes, and I think it's so much. No, like you see it in you know in
it's
news
an industry.
outlets.
We were talking this morning. We had this meeting with some of the tech guys this morning, and we we're talking about a glossary. You know, all these terminologies, API, that everyone uses, and everyone goes, "Oh yeah, I love an API," and all this kind of stuff. But like for like is a real set in stone, old school, like measure metric, and who's to say it's right?
Exactly, and I think there's so many things that you can look at instead of, you know, working with from a sales perspective, and with it, you know, from a sales within venue is looking at all the different other metrics. You know, looking at, right, okay, well, we're up on X on pre-book sales, for example, and, you know, and that in turn, you know, is your top line. But then being able to then say on your bottom line, that means we've got this in profit and things like that, and being able to use that. And we work with so many different venues on that whole commercial aspect of it, and it's so important.
It's because you can have cover growth and still lose money, right?
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
the thing, right? Or the other way around, you can make more money and have less covers, and yeah, it's super interesting. I don't think people really. Oh, I'm going to probably do lots of people disservice here, but I don't think it's drilled into enough. Obviously, in your world it is, but you know, in my old world, it wasn't. You know, we would look at top line, we'd look at sales. Covers became a thing, but covers were so badly managed through the POS, it was very hard. Like, you know, table of 4, sit down, just press 1. Yeah, because I can't be bothered pressing 4. And it sounds mental, but that was the thing.
It still is a thing. Yeah. It still is a thing, and
I can't get that. Sorry, it drives me mad. Just press 4.
I know it's so it's quite. You know, I was actually with a client this morning actually around that exact thing, where they're like, oh, we're finding it really difficult to match up everything and do that. And there are so many things, which again goes back to a lot of the training that we do, being able to get people to understand why that's so important to be able to do
Maybe
that.
just screaming at them wasn't the right way to do it.
I mean,
just press 4. No, but I think it's so true. And conversation used to end up in the boardroom in college. So we'd sit in there and go, oh my God, why are our covers not matching? It doesn't make sense. And everyone's like, yeah, because they just press 1 because it's quick.
Yeah.
But what it was affecting them was their average spend, which was then affecting their bonuses all the way up the tree to the GM, right?
Yeah.
And only after that realization, and I'll behave now, did we actually fix it, right? And everyone started pressing 4 when there was 4. But yeah, no, I think that buy-in part and that adoption part is true in everything.
Yeah. And the other thing I would say on that is that whole buying part is so important, and you will know this from all the work that you do from a systems perspective. I think we spoke about this in the first time we met, actually, was looking at, the fact that people don't believe in the system means it's never going to get used properly.
Yeah, you'll never get the true ROI.
Exactly. And so I think that's a great example from putting 1 in rather than 4 and getting people to understand the importance of it, and how when back in the day when I was sort of legal age, when I was saying earlier, I was putting in that 1 or 2 instead of the whatever. Yeah, me. I was the issue.
But it's what they say, isn't it? It's like great tech rolled out badly is bad tech.
Exactly.
Someone taught me that today. You can keep that.
Yeah, thanks so
Happy
much.
Christmas.
God, here we go.
Well, that's why you never done it. I presume this is why you've never done a podcast before, because of your name. Just some idiot will just stand across from me taking the mic. But no, it's true, isn't it? That if that adoption piece and that understanding of why we do something is always never. I don't think it's ever done really well. I think the people who do it really well obviously get success from it.
Exactly, and I think, and that's where you got to look at competitive socializing. They a lot of their tech within competitive socializing, it's their bread and butter. Like you've got to get on board or you get off. Like I think that's why a lot of them are showing massive growth versus different parts of the sector. And I think, when we often work with a lot of businesses that maybe do kind of hold back when it comes to tech, and even from a booking system, I worked with one venue in central London that was able to. I worked with them for just literally 2-3 days. I was able to show within 4 months just by utilizing your tech and it was just a bookings platform, just a bookings platform, but being able to utilize that showed an extra 100 grand into their top line sales within 4 months. That's a single sign, and that's because
put that on your website.
We do. But I think that whole thing, there is so much to go out that people I think get really, because they don't have the buy-in or not being trained in the right way or to understand the importance of it. It just makes people close up.
No, I love that. And if someone's listening now, well, hopefully there's one person listening. My mum's definitely listening. So if my mum wants to get in touch, no. But if someone wants to, is there a way they can kind of interact with you without spending a lot of money? I'm not saying you're expensive, but in terms of we just want a light touch. Yep. We just want to do something with you and kind of see what an opportunity could be.
Yeah, so we often work off time, basically. So it's about how much time. I was actually with another venue last week just for a day, and basically just went in and just sat down with their kind of lead, their head of sales and marketing, and sat down with them and just go, look, okay, talk me through your entire process, talk me through your logic, your methodology. Let's look at what you've got in your bookings platform, for example. Let's look at your customer journey.
It's terrifying for that person, isn't it? Do they feel a bit? I know I would, because I'm just a silly bugger anyway. But if you came to me to tell me about my sales, I'd be like, oh.
Yeah, we sometimes we get that, but I think what's really important to get across is that we're not here to shit on anyone. We're here.
I get that. Your approach is about opportunity, right?
Yeah,
and showing that opportunity.
And at the end of the day, for those people, if they, if off the back of it they get an increase in sales or marketing, whatever, then they're the ones that are winning, and they've paid a small amount for, again, a day rate for us.
So that's what you were saying. So within a day, you could. I know it's not deep enough to spend lots of time on, but you could show a snapshot of what you might be able to, what you could have won, as they say back in the 80s.
Yeah. We're able to really, again, using our own formulas that we're able to do to really help benchmark it. We can, we show that sort of stuff. We can do that in a day. Again, the more time we were given, with the more we can pull apart. But yeah, I think we can absolutely do that, and then be able to show a really quick sort of ROI based on that. And that's something that's always what everyone's looking for, right? It's
very cool. And I don't know if anyone else agrees with me, but your growth, yours and Bums on Seats, has been especially with Amber having a baby and coming back in as well. I think it's been super impressive, and everybody was watching you guys for a long period. Probably still are a long period of time. I was watching your growth going up and up and up. It's been really cool. What's the journey been like for you? If we kind of just as we tie things up.
Yeah. Look, it's been a journey. I've learned a lot, but the business is going well. We've shown growth. We've shown both more profitability, more growth. So it's going really well. But of course, it's not without its kind of bumps in the road, as everyone does. But yeah, no, and I think we've got some really exciting stuff coming up in the pipeline. I think Amber and I are looking to launch something very exciting next year, which I can't say too much now, but it should. What we want to do is we want to be able to kind of revolutionise the way that people are handling sales, and we've actually just gone live in Brewdog Waterloo as well. So plug. So we are working really tightly with some venues at the moment, which we're hoping to really launch at the beginning of next year. So yeah, watch this space, I suppose.
Very interesting. And where do people find you? How do they get hold of you? Obviously, they can stalk you on LinkedIn. Your name is out there.
Absolutely. You can look up Edward Christmas on LinkedIn. But yeah, no, of course, you can go on the bumpsonseats.org website. You can go obviously via email, just ed@bumpsonseats.org. But by all means, again, reach out. We're more than happy to have conversations, do free discovery calls, anything like that. More than happy to explore that. We want to work with as many different venues as possible.
And with Christmas coming, I'm just before I end, what kind of timeline do they need in front of it? Like how late can they leave it, as in before they can address this year's Christmas, for instance?
Again, I think it depends on when this is going out, but
I'll just write it on LinkedIn anyway.
Yeah, I think if you're going after your corporates, do it now. Yeah. And if you haven't done it now, then you need to be looking at last year's. What can you do? Who can you contact from last year that might be might be in the process of working with someone else, or what is the situation? Go after them, do it now. And if you're looking if it's more sort of November time when you're looking at it, then you've got to go after your consumer. Go for that more B2C market. Go after that loyalty, not discounts, added value. Get them back in for January by there and then. Offering that added value is exactly where you can go as you go in towards this Christmas period.
That was a Party Political broadcast by Bums on Seats. Thank you very much. No, look, brilliant. I think it's excellent, as I said, and I think the holy grail for any, I suppose, restaurant chain or customer-facing brand is like their oxygen is customers, right, or revenue. And I think if you can fix that through tech and people, I think it's fantastic, and a consultancy that obviously really gets its market, which I think you guys do, and your very relevant experience to what you were doing prior to what you're doing now. I think it's super exciting. So yeah, go check out. Is it bumsonseats.org?
It is indeed.
I got it right first time. Thank you very much. And find Ed. He's great. And find him. He's probably with Vic somewhere, I imagine, if you're trying to find him.
I mean, yeah, you can find Vic and I probably in the local bar, or you could also find Amber and I probably at Brewdog Waterloo around somewhere. So.
Yeah, everyone. Brewdog Waterloo is the place to be, really, isn't it? Everybody's here.
Everyone is.
Ed, thank you very much, mate. Appreciate you coming at the end of your day.
No,
the end of your day? I don't know. Yeah, MD, you can knock off at 4.
Thanks so much for having me, though.
No, you're most welcome. Well, we shall see you all soon. Wave bye-bye to the camera.
Thanks so much. Bye.